he has spoken on the topics faith, family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J Loren Norris.
I had never had an exit interview before. I had absolutely no idea what I was supposed to be gaining, garnering, learning, saying. I was at a loss. But the CEO of the company invited me in after he told me, we're transferring our company to an entirely different model. And as we do, we really just don't have a role for your job anymore. So we got a COBRA package for you, we got a severance package for you, and I'd love to help you kind of move forward to whatever you're doing next. I thought, well, that's kind of cool. And then he said, let's talk about what you've done here and let's talk about what you're going to do next. And I was really stunned because I'd never been there before. That's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.
I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and when I first sat down in that exit interview and he began to kind of list off the things that I had done, the accomplishments, the areas of improvement, I was taking notes. I mean, I was writing down everything that he said because he had built a successful business. This was his second or third business that he had helped to launch, build to greatness, and was moving on to something else. But he also was pretty good with people. And so as I listened to him critique the things that I could have done differently, could have done better, not that they would have saved my job. The job was going away. So this is not about, whether or not you're a good employee. It was somewhere between hey, let me give you a push out the door and let me give you a pat on the back at the same time. But it wasn't really, wasn't a go away kind of thing. It was wish I had a space for you. Or at least that's the way it felt. Now, if it was a go away thing, go away, just don't go away mad, then he did it really, really well. It was 25 years ago. I'm having a hard time recalling exactly what his mood was because I've studied a whole lot of leadership since then. But I can tell you in the moment, I felt like a good coach after an okay football game. Like, you did great in these 12 things, and these couple of things you could have done better. And, maybe the team won, maybe the team lost, but hey, you did your role to the best you knew how. Now here's some things you can work on next. That's what the interview felt like. But there was something else in the interview that I thought was very powerful. And that was the insightful requests of what my next roles might be. And he told me, as this process goes on, your job for the next 30 days is to find a better job. Oh, we'll keep paying you. We've got a severance check for you. But at the end of 30 days, you're not going to have a desk here anymore. There's not going to be an office for you. So just be prepared for that. And so I got busy about the business of hunting and finding jobs. And I asked him about some of the roles and some of the opportunities that were in front of me. And one of those roles included working for a very large company. And one of those roles included working for a very small company. The small company obviously was an entrepreneurial startup, but it wasn't a brand new company. It had been around for a decade or so. The large company was a Fortune 50 company, a very big global company, hundreds of thousands of employees. And both roles would be very much the same, selling, at that time, advertising. And so I explained the two roles to him, and his insightful reply was, in the small company, you have some advantages. And that is, you're a really good salesperson and you're probably going to excel to the top really, really fast. And you're going to reach a place where some of the ad accounts that you have, if you're getting residual income on them, will be a sustainable income. And, you know, it's a stable economy for that kind of thing. But you're also going to reach a cap because you can only put so many pages in that kind of publication. And as you're selling it, you're going to find that you're competing with the owner, you're competing with existing clientele and their relationship, whatever that may be, with the existing or past salesperson whose territory you're taking over. And if you have to carve out a whole new niche, then you've got a significant uphill climb. But a company that size also doesn't have benefits. And they didn't offer any benefits. No vacation time, no paid time off, no sick leave, no health care, no life insurance, no matching 401k, none of that stuff. It was a high commission paycheck with a base salary. So it had a little bit of security and a whole lot of opportunity, but an opportunity that eventually would be capped. He said, my fear for you in a place like that is that you're going to step in there, you're going to outshine a lot of people, you're going to make some waves, and some of the people who've been around for a long time and resting on their laurels, they've gotten their steady residual checks coming in, they're perfectly happy with their paycheck, and you know there's no reason to upset the apple cart, but you're going to upset the apple cart. That's just what I see about you, the way that you operate. He said, in a large company, you've got a different set of problems, and that is, chances are you're going to come in and it's going to take you a minute to get your feet wet, and you're going to enjoy the security of not having to travel. You're going to enjoy the security of being in an office every day and everything provided for you as far as your health care and your 401k and all that kind of stuff. All that's going to be cool. That's good because you've got small children, and I recommend that you have that kind of security for them. But probably what you don't know, because you've never worked in a Fortune 50 corporate America kind of company like that, is this. You're always going to run into people who have kind of reached what we call the Peter principle. They have succeeded as far as they will ever succeed. They're in the highest level of their incompetence. And there's really not another place to promote them to, but there's really not a reason to fire them. They're just kind of as okay as they're going to get, and they're as successful as they're going to get, and they probably won't go any further. And the problem with a guy like you is you're going to come in and work so hard that some people are going to think you should have their job. And the people who already have that job, they're not going to be very happy about that. He said, I would predict probably within the first year that you're there that you're going to do something outstanding and people are going to take the credit for it. And something's going to go wrong. And because you could take the blame and it really wouldn't impact you, it's kind of like being an offensive lineman. You take the big blows from the big guys on the other side of the line so the little running back doesn't have to. You've got great potential, so you can take some big blows and recover from it. When some of these people are a little longer in the tooth, they've been around for a little longer, that kind of blow to them would cost them their career. And I don't know if he was just that insightful or if he was prophetic. It was less than 90 days into the job at the Fortune 50 company that I accepted that exactly that happened. A huge opportunity came from me because of the success of myself and another partner. I should have received a very sizable check as a result of it. And instead, that money was redirected, redistributed, however you want to say it. Somebody else's job was saved, and my commission check disappeared along with the saving of their job. I'll leave it at that. Insightful, prophetic, I don't know. Here's what I do know. After that exit interview, I learned a lot about leadership, and I learned a lot about myself. And over time, I've seen the progression of the contrasting difference between management and leadership. I love the way John Maxwell says it in his little book, Mentoring 101. Makes a couple of great claims. Page 98. Again, if you don't have it, pick these up. They're inexpensive, great little summaries of all of the 101 books. I actually have the big one over there that has all of the 101s in one book, in one binding. But he says, Walter Lippmann, the founder of the New Republic, said, quote, "Ignore a man's desires and you ignore the very source of his power." Then he goes on to say, unfortunately, some leaders don't like to see others pursuing their dreams because it reminds them of how far they are from living their own dreams. As a result, these types of leaders try to talk people out of reaching for their dreams, and they often do it using the same excuses and rationalizations, it's a big word, rationalizations they gave themselves. So what is he saying? He's saying, sometimes there are people who have just failed as far as they can fail. They've reached the pinnacle of their failure. They're not going to succeed anymore. They're not going to achieve anymore. They're done. The problem is, most of the time they quit right there and then start to buffer their failure with excuses for why this is as far as I went. Maybe it's a victimhood mentality about race or sexuality or gender identity or my paycheck or the part of town that I came from or the quality of education that I got or the school that I went to or the degree program that I have. Those are all the buffer excuses they put around themselves when they plant their feet and say, I'm not moving any further. I'm not pursuing my excellence anymore. I'm not chasing my dream. I'm all done chasing it. It outran me and I'm okay with that. But the problem is when they take those same excuses and rationalizations and they project them onto you when they're supposed to be leading you. They're not looking for you to succeed. They're not looking for you to excel. The last thing they want is for you to reach for the stars and leave them in the dust. They're not excited about that idea at all. He goes on to say, when a leader is learning and growing and pursuing his own dreams, he's more likely to help others pursue their own. He also points out there's a great difference between equipping and developing. See, when you take a new job, as I did with the little pizza joint, and I realized that, I was hired for what they called management training, which meant for the first week I picked up noodles under the table that the kids had left behind. I cleaned up after the salad bar. I restocked the salad bar. I rotated the goods in the cooler. I made pizza dough, but I never even got to handle a knife to cut a pizza. And after about a week of this, I'm like, look, I just got out of the Air Force. I'm a pretty mature guy. I can handle whatever you're going to throw at me. But no, nowhere near the cash register, nowhere near the pizza knife. Heaven forbid, fire trucks, fire hoses, and M16s, oh my, but you can't handle a pizza knife. Not just yet. You're not quite ready. It took about 7 days of that management training, meaning skill set equipping. You'll learn to do the job specifically the way we want you to do the job. We're creating more robots. The more robots we have that do exactly the same job, that can perform exactly the same function, the better off our organization operates. We don't need anybody trying to be the GM. I already have that job. I've reached my highest level. This is the best job I could have until I own the franchise, and this one's not for sale. So GM is the top. There's only one. You're not getting it. It's mine. Good luck with that. But I will equip you. I will manage you to be someone who follows all the orders, does all the things that I need them to do, and that's it. See, this person has stopped dreaming. They don't see any further future opportunity for them. One of the wisest things I ever heard from a leader was he said, I'm not looking to put you into a job. I'm looking to put you into mine. I want to work myself out of a job because until I do that, I can't reach the next one. So I need to train you to do everything I do better than I do it so that when the opportunity comes to leave, I know the job is handled. But the opportunity to leave will come from you being able to do my job. Let me go back to that quote, though. It's very wise. Walter Lippmann. Ignore what a man desires and you ignore the very source of his power. See, when you take away the dreams from someone, when you ignore their dreams, when you forget that they have capacity to do more than follow the instructions and do the job, when you're not developing that character within them, that personality within them, that strength within them, that desire, that passion to excel, when you've squelched that because you've reached the highest level that you're going to reach and you don't want them to surpass you, you take away their power. And what do powerless people do? Well, one of two things. They cower down or they fight back. When you take away the source of someone's power, unfortunately, though, that's like putting a wet blanket over the top of a match and wondering why it's dark in your room. How many matches do you have under that wet blanket? How many other people's dreams have you squelched? How many other people have you said, just follow the instructions that I gave you? That's it. I don't need you to think. I don't need you to daydream. I don't need you to conjure up new ideas. I just need you to follow the instructions that I gave you. See, that's the work of a manager, not a leader. A manager equips someone to master their skills, but developing a person is a whole different thing. John Maxwell, again, Mentoring 101, goes on to say, everyone doesn't respond to the same kind of leadership. Really? Raising 4 kids ought to tell you that. If you've raised any more than one kid, you will know they don't all respond to the same leadership. Some need the carrot, some need the stick. Some need a carrot on a stick. Some need a carrot that looks like a stick or a stick that looks like a carrot. And every one of their little personalities is different. It's amazing that we grow up into big people America and we all of a sudden think, well, they're all going to learn the same. They're all going to track the same. They're all going to obey the same. They're all going to follow the same rules. Human beings are not real good at that, if you hadn't noticed. Everyone doesn't respond to the same kind of leadership. You should try to be consistent with everyone. You should treat everyone with kindness and respect. But don't expect to use the same strategies and methods with everyone. You have to figure out what leadership buttons to push with each individual person on your team. One person will respond well to being challenged. Another wants to be nurtured. You've got to use organizational goals for your development. Again, if you don't have this little book, I'm telling you, it's the best $10 you're going to spend in this category. When it's bad for the individual and it's bad for the organization, everyone loses. When it's good for the individual and bad for the organization loses. When it's bad for the individual and good for the individual loses. When it's good for the individual and good for the organization, everyone wins. That's the job of a true leader. It's to find the power, it's to find the passion, to identify within the people on your team. Who are they? What do they love? What makes them tick? What is their passion? And then how can you integrate opportunity for them to learn? Maybe you just grab a book and read through it together. You ask everybody on your leadership team, hey, I want you to read this book over the next couple of months. We'll have lunch on Friday and we'll talk about it. That's hard to do sometimes. It's hard to manage the time to do that. I have 7 books on my desk right now that I'm partially through reading each one, but I've also got 5 presentations between now and the end of the year. All of them demand a slideshow and some kind of speech topic rewritten, recrafted for the specific audience. That's a lot of work to do, and this daily show. But if I was leading a team of 10 or 20 people, I would be finding a way to engage with them one-on-one, if possible, in small groups, at a minimum. And in some way that we would have a consistency of conversation that we could say, hey, have you read out of your Mentoring 101 book this week? What kind of takeaways did you have? What did you learn new about yourself? What did you learn new about someone else that you lead? My job is leading leaders. I don't desire to have 10 million followers. I love the way John Maxwell says it. It shifted my way of thinking as a leader. I can't lead 100 million people successfully. I can influence them a little bit, but I can't develop them. I can't extend their reach. I can't get deeply into their passions. You can't do that with 1,000 people, with 100 people. But John Maxwell says, rather than lead 10 million people, I'd rather personally lead 1,000, who lead 1,000, who lead 1,000, who lead 1,000. 10 million followers versus 1,000 developed leaders. That's a whole different impact in the world. But all of that starts with understanding the difference between management, making sure that someone masters their skill set, and leadership, developing the who that they are. Not just the skills that they have in the tasks of the job, but the skills that they have in leading other people, influencing other people, making good decisions, telling better stories. All of these things tap into the power of their own passions, their own desires, their own wants, their own needs, their own ambitions. And oh yeah, the reality is there will be people that you have an opportunity to develop. And as you develop them, you realize they're going to be better than me at this job. They might take my job. They might leave me in the dust. They're going to be so much better. How do you think a coach feels when they see that MVP Super Bowl ring on their quarterback? And they don't have one except for the team's Super Bowl ring. But they realize the talent, the skill, the ability, the discipline, the work of that quarterback made them who they are. But without the leadership development of their coach, it may have taken them nowhere. How do we know? I don't know. You ever heard the name Johnny Football? Johnny Manziel? That was a young man with incredible talent, incredible physical ability, incredible sight, passion, athleticism, and no good leadership in his life. I'm not saying his coaches failed him, but he refused to be led in a lot of ways. The passion in him destroyed him because it wasn't led well, not by him and apparently not by the people around him. That's a sad reality. But it's the sad reality of a whole lot of people who will die in a sea of desperation, having never realized their dreams. Partly because they reached the place of the pinnacle of their failure and surrounded themselves with excuses and rationalizations, and partly because they surrendered themselves to a leader who had already done the same, who will buffer their experiences, buffer their successes, pad their future with the same excuses and the same rationalizations, and rather than say, I am perfectly okay to see you succeed greater than I am, to go farther than I have, to do more than I can, I'm ecstatic to see that happen as a leader. No, instead they've learned to manage expectations and manage futures and manage people. Look, if you want to be the kind of leader that people remember 10 years, 20 years, 40 years from now and say, that's the kind of leader that I long to be, then learn to develop your people. Don't just equip them with the skill sets to do the job. Equip them and empower them by developing the person they are. Develop their dreams and their passions. Train them in that way, and you will see an incredible outcome in their future and in yours. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Loren is a master teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Loren, but it was totally worth my time, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking to grow your ministry, grow your business, grow your career. Loren will serve you well.